Namaste and welcome to Urban Chatterati. This is Abhinav Prakash. And today I'm joined by a very special guest, Tejasvi Surya, Member of Parliament from South Bangalore, National President of BJP Youth Wing, and he's also the member of the Parliamentary Committee on Information Technology and also the member of Joint Select Committee drafting the Data Protection Bill. Tejasvi, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Abhinav. Namaste.
So just we are seeing the battle between Twitter and India is now blowing up. Twitter is clearly refusing to follow the Indian sovereign law, whereas certain people are saying that the Indian government is trying to impose restrictions on the freedom of expression. What is the stand of the party and what is the stand of, let's say, the government on this issue?
Abhinav, this entire issue boils down to a very simple and a very primary principle of universal jurisprudence. Any company which wishes to function and operate its business in a particular land must follow the rules and laws made by that particular nation. This is the principle of sovereignty. When companies from India go abroad and establish and incorporate themselves and start their business operations in that country, all Indian companies have to follow the rules and law of that particular country. And this holds good for every nation, every country around the world. The only exception to this was during the period of colonization, when a particular company originated or incorporated in one nation, set up its business operations in another nation without following the rules and laws made in that country of operation. We now believe that we have gone well past the age and era of colonization and imperialism, and there is a certainty of sovereignty of operations and legislation that is the boundary of operation for every country. This is the principle at play. So if Twitter wants to operate in India, Twitter has to follow the rules and legislations as made under the Constitution of India. They cannot be subjecting people of India to their own policies and rules, which may in certain aspects be not in conformity to the constitutional principles of the country.
But how do you balance?
So let me just take 10 more seconds. So now the question is, should Twitter follow the rules or not? If Twitter does not follow the rules or laws made by this country, then it is nothing short of a direct affront on the sovereignty of the country's constitution as well as the Republic of India. This is the first aspect. The second aspect is, how is this being made into a battle of freedom of expression? Now, what is the legislation? What is the rules? What is the objective of the rules? The objective of the rules is to ensure that the lay user of Twitter in India will have a grievance redressal mechanism. Suppose you are subjected to arbitrary treatment by Twitter or any other social media platform, the rules guarantee that you are heard before you are deplatformed or your tweet is taken out. You are ensured of fair algorithmic treatment. If there is any bias that you feel, then you have a redressal mechanism in place. What baffles me, Abhinav, is if Twitter unilaterally deplatforms somebody, unilaterally and arbitrarily removes somebody's tweet, selectively and subjectively declares certain tweets as sensitive and manipulated. This is not considered as affront on freedom of expression, but the attempt of the government to ensure a grievous redressal mechanism is put in place so that your freedom of expression is not arbitrarily curtailed is seen as a curtailment on freedom of expression. This again is the irony the lack of logic and consistency, which is so clearly seen consistently in the left's arguments.
Yeah, but many people have been asking that Twitter has been doing it for so long. Why the government has not taken any action? You see, the Nigeria has banned Twitter. In Russia, the Twitter has been deliberately slowed down. China never allowed them in the first place. So what's the government thinking on this thing? Because we have seen the farmers protest, we have the anti-CA protest, we have seen so many times when Twitter has pushed a particular political narrative. So why is the government not taking any action?
No, the government has been taking action, and this intermediary rules that has now been brought about and which has now been notified and put into motion from the 25th of February 2021 is the very first step in that direction. And the examples that you gave, Abhinav, whether it is Nigeria, whether it is China, or whether it is Russia, I wouldn't have to elaborate as to how we are fundamentally different from, say, China or Nigeria or Russia in terms of our liberal democracy. So we allow for these companies to operate, but they must operate in a regulated framework. And now when the government is trying to put these regulations and framework in place, which are extremely reasonable, which are constitutional, these very companies are now saying that we will not be following them. So this is the reason for this confrontation.
Yeah. But you have a wider question out there. It's not just the Twitter. You have the big tech, the big five. You have the companies like Amazon. You have other digital companies. It seems that India is now becoming a kind of digital colony of either America or China. So what do you think the future holds for us in this thing?
Well, it's a very important issue. I think the government in its at the very highest levels is cognizant of this fact and is addressing it with all seriousness. You will see that the personal data protection bill, which will soon be a law, will be one of the most robust data privacy, data protection laws in the world. In addition to that, we must also realize that this is a evolving space where technology and law plays catch up one after the other. So we cannot be seen to be napping while technology takes a leaping feet, big leap. At the same time, we cannot put such rules and regulations in place which does not allow for innovation and technology to grow. So this is a fine balance that a liberal democracy like India must do. But like I said, there is no way that we can allow India to be a digital colony. So protecting our data sovereignty, protecting the privacy of Indians, the data of Indians, ensuring that Indian tech companies and Indian companies which sell on platforms like Amazon and others are treated fairly, that there is going to be an algorithm audit which ensures there is neutrality of these platforms. These are extremely important fundamental principles that through legislations we must ensure, and through the intermediary and digital media ethics code regulations, as well as the PDP bill and more legislations which are in the pipeline. The objective is to go towards ensuring a free and fair treatment of all platforms and stakeholders in the country.
Yeah. But is something is being done about the tax collection from these companies? Because apparently Twitter pays hardly any tax in India. Same is the case with the Google, Amazon, and the other big tech. Because Twitter is a very small fish. The big
Correct.
ones are Google, Amazon, and so on. So are we thinking something on the tax front as well?
Absolutely. So, the amendment was also made earlier to the IT Act to tax the revenue that was being generated in India. And like you are aware, these companies operate in such a way that many of these companies, even though most of their business activities, administration takes place in the United States, they're incorporated, say, in Ireland or incorporated in another nation just to evade taxes. So this taxing of these digital companies has become a challenge not only in India but also to the government of United States. So we must definitely work in that direction. And like I said, the amendment was earlier made, I think in early 2018 or 19 to the IT Act, which enabled the Indian authorities to tax the revenue generated in India. That is one step towards that direction. In addition to that, Abhinav, I also feel that we must also look at how Competition Commission of India can play a very important role in ensuring no cartelization or monopoly of these platforms take place. For example, if you just look at Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram put together have about 80 crore unique users in India. So that means that one particular entity, one particular corporation has that kind of a sway in the digital space. You are also hearing complaints of how Amazon, the moment it sees a new business product or a new business that's on its e-platform, immediately understands through its logic and algorithm what sells and what does not. And Amazon itself enters that particular field of business and kills the new competition.
Yeah.
So these are issues that must be confronted by the Competition Commission of India as well. And I to be very honest, feel that the Competition Commission of India till now has not taken enough steps in that direction. And all of us together must put ask Competition Commission of India to start thinking in this direction as well. Just like how the United States at one point in time broke the big steel infrastructure and oil companies into smaller entities. A similar discussion is also now going on in the United States as to whether there is rationale in breaking down these big digital behemoths. So we must also think of this direction, because many Indian companies, new startups, will start suffering if these big companies, especially platforms like Play Store, platforms like iStore, the Apple equivalent of Play Store. I'm not able to wait, let me tell you, what is that? App Store, right? App Store and Play Store, if they have unfair practices, if they treat new apps, new applications differently, then that is a affront on India's innovation and India's startups. So I think, Abhinav, let me summarize this very quickly. We must go back to our first principles. The first principles here are, we must have a harmonious balance between innovation and regulation. There must be adequate room for Indian companies, Indian startups to grow and not be swallowed unnaturally, unfairly by the Amazons and Googles and Apples of the world. We must ensure that people's freedom of expression, the way they want to speak, they want to use these platforms, is protected, as well as a grievance redressal mechanism is put in place so that their freedom of expression is protected. At the same time, we must ensure that our digital sovereignty is protected so that India will not be reduced to a digital colony. These are the fundamental principles.
Yeah. So my last question to Tejasvi will be a bit more political. We have recently seen that in TISS Hyderabad, in the name of academic work, MA project was submitted, which was titled India Occupied Kashmir, which was supposedly on gender. And inside the document, we have seen India is a colonizer, India is an imperialist power, and so on. And this is very common in lots of humanities work. So you see, the freedom of expression and the academic freedom is now being used for a certain political end in the country. And many of these corporates, they're not only killing the competition, but they're also promoting certain kind of ideology, especially the Western corporations. Even, in India, we are seeing the attempts by the corporations to do that. What is going on there and how it can be tackled? Because it's not just the Amazon killing a new entrant, it's also Amazon discriminating on the basis of political opinion of the founder.
Correct. No, Abhinav, see, it baffles to know that Twitter comes on record to say that they promote a certain type of healthy, quote unquote, healthy conversation, and demote, using their algorithm, quote unquote, unhealthy conversation. Now, this goes against the very fundamental principle of what an intermediary is. Now, the law says, the section 79 of the IT Act says that you are an intermediary if you do not meddle with content, if you do not editorialize any content. That's when you get the liability, exemption from liability. So in essence, you must be like a blackboard. Anybody can come and write what they want. Now, you will ask, can anybody write anything that they want? No, they cannot. But who decides that? Not Twitter, but the law of the land. So Twitter and Twitter's algorithm must effectively control only, and I repeat, only those content which has been prohibited by the law of the land, and nothing apart from that. Anything that they do apart from that, including like what you said, promoting a certain type of content and demoting a certain type of content, which, let me tell you, Twitter has come on record and said this is a clear violation of Section 79 intermediary regulation. In addition to that, Abhinav, you see there are hundreds of examples one can give. Capitol Hill violence, nobody less than Trump gets deplatformed. The same kind of violence take place here in India, the Red Fort, nothing happens. The same, come to the example of the manipulated media that Twitter placed on Sambit Patraji's tweet and a few other BJP leaders' tweet unilaterally. But the same Twitter does not consider, the same algorithms of Twitter does not hold the Ghaziabad's fake Jai Shri Ram incident as synthetic media. So, which is why I feel, this is a point I have been making at various, forums and committees as well, and I have written, on this aspect to the MeitY as well, the Ministry of Information and Technology, that unless and until we make algorithm audit as a right of a user, this problem will continue. For example, if I'm a user of Twitter and I feel that my tweet, a certain tweet has been, the reach of the tweet has reduced. If I feel a certain tweet has been shadow banned, all of these are Twitter terms, I must have the right to ask for an algorithm audit, which will tell me whether these principles of neutrality are met or not. And if the algorithm audit proves that there is a violation of neutrality, then I must be, as a user, entitled to take Twitter and sue Twitter because they have not performed, or rather they have violated the principle of neutrality. So I think this is an evolving space, and we must do more to ensure that the basic principles that I mentioned earlier of transparency, accountability, innovation with soft regulation is taken care of.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And this is a problem which everyone is facing. The rise of techno-feudalism and surveillance capitalism is a big challenge in the front.
Very heavy to concepts that you brought in there.
So it's not just the India, but also all the democracies of the world are facing the same problem. But thanks a lot, Tejasvi, for your time, and best of luck for your committee and the work you are doing to protect the India's digital sovereignty.
Thank you so much, Abhinav. So I just want to say this before we end. This is beyond party politics. This is something that young Indians must understand. When we ask Twitter to adhere to a certain grievance redressal mechanism, when we ask social media platforms to have algorithmic neutrality, when we ask Amazon, when we ask iStore, when we ask Google Play Store to have neutral treatment to all applications and platforms and e-commerce businesses which they onboard, it affects the interests of every single Indian. This is beyond party politics. This affects the country's future. So if we do not want India to end up as a digital colony, then this is something that we must take up very seriously, because we are a nation of 1 billion people. So when we deal with Twitter, when we deal with Facebook, when we deal with these digital companies from abroad, we must deal with the gumption, the conviction as to how a country of 1 billion people must deal with them. So Indeed. That is something that all of us as young Indians must keep in mind. Thank you so much, Abhinav, for giving me this opportunity to talk to you on this very important issue, and all the best with all your endeavors. Namaste.
Thank you. And thank you, audience. See you soon.